Greetings, dear sisters. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. My partner steps away. Each of you are here for different reasons, and they're personal. But in general, there is a calling. It's a calling that isn't necessarily understood or even linear. Channel after channel, we have told you that not all of you were present at the same time. But the calling is mostly because you are old souls. And the calling is that as old souls, and the gender that you are, you remember something. It's deep. There's more than just a camaraderie of the gender here in celebration. That's been done for years. There is a calling. When we spoke to you last, we told you that the reason that you're here and the future of all of the sisterhoods is the illumination of even more of this that you remember. And we also told you something else, that you would never be able to start the teaching before you conquered that which is lack of self-worth. So let's just expound a little more on that, plus another question which is often asked. The lack of self-worth, as we have discussed before, is caused by many things. In general, for humanity, and for old souls specifically, it's the battle with the light. It's continually losing the battle with the light. For the old energy, specifically before 2012, was not balanced. And that energy literally featured a darkness that was tough to get through. And if you had enlightened thoughts, and if you tried to go through it quite often, you were beaten back. There weren't a lot of victories of the light in the old energy. And the ones that were celebrated and are still today, but there were so few of them. So here you are, ladies, having been both genders for thousands of years, finding yourself, however, in a body today that remembers not just the gender, but a time when there was no dark energy to beat you up. The dichotomy is there. You are filled with the knowledge of what could be, and that you are indeed filled with an experience of what was. And the result, you wonder whether you can do it again. How can you shine your light? What does it mean? Where will you get the information? How will you treat it? And then there's the fear of not having it work again. As women, you also carry that in the culture of the feeling of being second class, all perpetrated by the culture on you. And it's not just been this time, but over and over. Indeed, you took turns, but what you remember now in your gender is even more of being beat up, not just by the universe, not just by the dark energy, but by other humans who wouldn't let you get ahead. So here you find yourself seated in the chair with multiple layers pushing on you, saying either I don't deserve it, or I do deserve it, but I'm not really sure how to proceed. So the teaching truly will be becoming sacred again, becoming valuable to yourself again. And it won't be overnight. This is what sisterhood is really going to be about. A remembrance of a time when you did not fight that which was darkness. A remembrance of when the gender was seen for the sacredness that it can give to the society, for what you have to offer in wisdom to the rest of those around you, in a culture that slowly, very slowly, will start to see it and recognize it. Dear ones, it's already begun. Have you noticed? It's not you getting the upper hand. It's you getting the balance you deserve. And in that, there will be a lessening of that which is the self-worth issue. But it seems to come with the territory, doesn't it? You being here, the gender that you have, fighting the dark energy all these lifetimes, and here you sit. The questions have to be many. Let's ask one. If you start to show yourself, how will it be seen? How are you going to see it yourself? For one of the things that you're taught from birth is do not be filled with yourself. If you are, it is called ego. And suddenly, here you are with so much to fill yourself with. The fact that you have come, literally, from Pleiadian royalty. The teaching that you've had, what you must know is deep inside. The ability to lead in spiritual things. Intuition, which is better than all those of another gender. Well, there is only one other gender. You have the best intuition. You have the best wisdom. That comes automatically with the ability to raise a new life, to be able to see things before they happen, to be able to shelter, take care of, nurture, compassion, all of that. It's all there. It's all ready to be poured into something else, to spiritual truth, to teaching. How do you come out with that? Well, the answer is slowly. But how do you treat it yourself? Is there a trigger in you that's going to say, I'm being an egotist. I'm going to be beat back. People will think I'm full of myself. I'll tell you the truth. The only thing I want you to let be seen in so much strength is compassion. No one will ever call you an egotist if that's what shows first. Layers of your knowledge and your wisdom and the feeling of coming out will be there. But the first layer, the one that's going to be most impressive and never confused with ego, will be a compassionate spirit. And as you do that, you will feel for yourself. You're not filled with yourself when you show compassion. Hardly. Compassion is something that is from God. It's from the other side of the veil. And that is the first step. So let compassion start to come forward first. And you will say, well, I'm already a compassionate person. Really? Really? With everything, right? Or just the things that you feel compassionate about. Can you have compassion for those who abuse you? Can you have compassion for those who betrayed you? Can you have compassion for the dark side which beat you up? And the answer is, a master can, and the ones who taught you have. This is what you learned. Compassionate spirit is finding the God in everything, the oneness that is in everything. And that is where you shine, ladies, because you have that built in as child bearers, even if you've never had children. This is one of the first things you do have. And you have it so great, so grand, so fast. Let it out. The other thing you might ask is this, well, I'm just ordinary. That's how I feel, some of you will say. And you will say, where am I going to get the learning that I had so long ago? How can I begin to even start to remember it? Kryon, you said we're going to be teaching the things we learned in this special place called Lemuria. You'll have the ceremonies today, the teaching today, the channeling today. But you will not walk out with full knowledge of what to do next. I want you to take a deep breath. Because here's what I want to tell you. You were groomed for this time spiritually. Everything that was ever taught to you in any lifetime that represented the seed truths of the creative source are still there. Indeed, you may have to dig for them. And by digging for them, I mean you're going to have to work on your lack of self-worth. As soon as you start clearing the boards on who you are and realize there is strength in you through compassion and wisdom, remembrance, you start to wipe away the darkness that holds you back. It really does hold you back. So many of you always looking over your shoulder, expecting what you got before. Perhaps not speaking out quite as hard for fear of what you had before. When these things start to go away and the purity of who you really are starts to show through, the seeds of your teaching will come through. And you'll wonder where this came from. It came from that which you have earned. Ladies, the teaching is still there. Some of you can feel it trying to break through. Not the necessary facts, not the processes and procedure, but the core truths of living. They're all there. What the star teachers gave you, so many of you, face to face, old soul, is there, just waiting for you to do the next step. Purify yourself from the old energy, from what you've experienced this time around, last time around, dismissing all things that hurt, dismissing all betrayal, coming out as a master. I'll tell you something. When this begins, there are so many who will take notice, and they will look at you differently. All genders will look at you differently and say, here is an old soul worth listening to. I speak the truth today of what's in the way and what can be done. Let the rest of this channeling begin. And so it is.